Thank you, Jeffrey, and all the Jeffreys. And thank you to the university for hosting me and to all of you for being here. So just a little bit of information about the book to give it some context. It presents itself as an archive of documents from a fictional school that was founded around 1898, in which children with speech impediments were trained to channel the dead. And so it's made up of a lot of different kinds of, bless you, some fake nonfiction, some homework assignments, and two main narrative threads, the story of the headmistress of the school and the story of a young girl who's her protege. And the headmistress's story is narrated from within the land of the dead, so it's strange in ways you will hear. And I'm going to start with the very beginning of her final dispatch from the land of the dead, dictated over the course of one long night, her last night, through a transmitting device of her own invention. Borne on racing white streak black, swirling to the glassy brink of the cataracts, then plunging in din and tumult, so constant as to seem a kind of stillness. Around me others fall, so many as to seem like no one. We thunder down, then smash against the fundament of the world. One smithereen, I flash past scenes, too fleeting to collect, but someone is speaking. And as I recognize the voice, ground forms under my feet. The others stream on, forsaking me. Static. Are you receiving? Static. Sound of breathing. Someone rises from the deluge, a bony big woman tented in mourning crepe and bombazine, bothered all over with jet beads and netting. The great curved shield of her bosom has more of whalebone than of flesh behind it. The glossy carapace brings beetles to mind, an important personage. She is gripping a lorgnette and glaring about as if looking for someone. A suspicion dawns on me that I am speaking of myself. The personage opens my mouth. I am saying something. It is this, that I am saying something, which is this, that I am saying something, which is several words indistinct. Stop. Compose yourself. Resume. Say that my name is Civil, adjudicate joins, that I am yet something short of 70 years old, my precise age being uncertain, due to frequent prosecutions of what is in effect a kind of time travel, that I have worn crepe from the age of 11 and do not now expect to it off. Please correct phonotactic violations. Say that I am the headmistress of a vocational school, that I teach children with what were once known as speech impediments to channel the dead, having been one myself once, a child, that is, with a stutter. Say that the dead speak through me, or let them say so, it's all one. Say that I dispatch this message from the land of the dead, where I have spent many pleasant hours. They aren't hours, there are no hours here, but we would be here all day if there were days here, if I tried to explain how the lack of time drags on regardless. Say that I live at the school with my students, that they are like family to me, which might sound agreeable if one did not know that my mother was hanged and my father burned alive. Say that a child is missing. Static. Sound of breathing. Are you receiving? Now we hear from her stenographer and protege, Jane Grandison, who transcribed this final dispatch, sitting beside the receiving device over the course of the evening. The headmistress's tiny, tinny voice has fallen silent. The brass trumpet flower, Pythian oracle, hierophant, is unreverberant, its mechanism still. Only a faint hissing emanating from among the ivory hammers, copper coils, India rubber bladders, and paper diaphragms, tucked like organs inside its mahogany case, attests that the channel is open. The miracle continues. So I have a minute, and maybe more, to figure out what to do. The night is long. There will be time for everything that is required. But to know my duty, it will be necessary to know who I am. When did that begin to be a question? Maybe already that first day. I was 11 years old, could write my name backwards and upside down, but not pronounce it, and had seen several dead people already. The prospect of hearing them too did not particularly alarm me, so I had informed my aunt when, with exaggerated surprise, she brought me the letter from the Sybil Joines Vocational School for Ghost Speakers and Hearing Mouth Children. "We are pleased to offer you a place, room and board, reply soonest." Since I saw that she had made up her mind to be rid of me, pride would have prompted me to say so in any case, but I spoke as I felt. Now, as the glossy, black, indignant-looking automobile we had retained in Springfield brought me ever closer to the school, my breath did come quicker, but it was with curiosity and excitement, not dread. I braced my hand against the ceiling as the car jolted over a rock. The road had deteriorated after Cheese Hill and was now little more than two ruts running in parallel. My escort, a pinched, powder-white woman in weeds, rapped twice on the back of our driver's seat with her cane. "You there, we shall be rattled to pieces." Seal brown fingers tightened on the wheel. "Got to beat that storm, ma'am, with the roads in this condition, or I won't be making it home this side of tomorrow." Indeed, for some time, the wind had carried the tang of rain, and a break in the trees showed the thunderheads heaping up over the ridge, though on us the sun still shone. "Storm? Storm? Are you frightened of a storm at your age? If need be, the school can put you up for the night." The driver made no reply, but drove, if anything, faster. The dead people I had seen were my mother and Biddy, of influenza. My father might have been dead too, for all I knew, having skived off before Biddy was weaned. Truthfully, to hear them speak again would have been a very great shock, but I did not at all expect to. Their silence, when it came, had been complete. My reflection slid stilly over the hurtling trees, leaning over me in an admonishing way, like a censorious second self. I looked steadily through it, drinking in the strangeness of all I saw. Wonderful to me, however unremarkable in itself. Dark woods, muddy fields, a small, rank, weedy lake, where off the stove-in, upturned bottom of a red rowboat, a solitary heron was just tilting into flight. I half rose in sympathy with its effortful ascent. "Stop fidgeting, girl." One might sink a hat pin in Miss Exiguous, I thought, coolly assessing the jet-tipped pear anchoring her black felt hat. Without returning my glance, she shifted uneasily on the seat, and I perceived with dreary unsurprise that, like my aunt, she was one of those who feel toward colored folk the way some feel toward a spider or a snake, that even the mildest members of the species make uneasy company. Deliberately, I returned my gaze to the window, though now that I was sitting back, I could see nothing of interest, only branches, sky, myself. I was a runty girl, small, dark, and odd-looking, as I could have confirmed in the glass had I wished. A sufficiency of mirrors had already taught me not to hope, not for a pretty face at least, and the kind of luck that comes with it. Not that my face was hideous, but it had a plain, hard, assessing look, incompatible with beauty. It expressed my nature truthfully enough. I was not a gay girl. Now I kept that face turned with the pertinacity of a praying mantis toward where I imagined the vocational school to be. I had been shown a picture of a big black building and a big black dress with a big white man-faced woman in it and a line of children, some of them colored like me, with black bands around their sleeves. I had been told that someone with your gifts, girl, gifts, would be admitted on scholarship, room and board included. It scarcely mattered. For inducements little greater than these, I would have gone to Mongolia or the moon. It seems incredible, but I am going, really going, I told myself. My stammer, the cause of so much misery, had set me free. Now I'm going to skip ahead to the second of a number of letters to dead authors that appear throughout the book. Written again by the headmistress, "Dear Mr. Melville, it has come to my attention that you are dead. I wish I had known that before writing my last letter. I would have expressed myself differently. I had naturally hoped to persuade you to come to the aid of my school, a testimonial from a great man, a national treasure. But a corpse cannot write a letter to the Times. A corpse cannot read a letter either. That is common sense. Perhaps I am zany for writing this. Perhaps it is true what Mrs. Brock and the other hens at the Harmonial Sisterhood said of me. But is it really so much more sensible to levitate tables and converse with dead Lincolns and have your likeness taken with ectoplasm pluming from your nostrils, as Victoria Littlebrow did last August in Chicago at the home of the Beatific Twins? Incidentally, you would marvel if you could see me, for I am wearing a cunningly constructed device that pulls open the mouth and stretches the tongue, which in my opinion can never be too long. On the latter, I am wearing a sort of costume made of paper. One of my principal communicants on the other side, Cornelius Hackett, said something today, through my mouth, of course, that I did not quite make out, but that may have been little dress. It is also possible, as one student suggested, that it was littleness, humility, or even fickleness. Though, to what in this world have I been as faithful as I have been my whole life long to death? I will know soon enough if my little dress pleases the dead, certainly pleases me to see in the mirror my neatly turned out tongue jumping in my mouth like a pupil at morning calisthenics. On the other hand, my shadow on the wall, wagging with the flame, is fearsome. It almost looks like the head of someone who has been partially flayed with a blunt instrument, possibly a spoon. Just nearly set my hair on fire with a candle. And then in putting myself to rights, scorched the ruffle on my tongue. Let this remind me to keep my attention on the task at hand instead of alarming myself with figments. I should explain why I chose to make this dress out of paper and not a stouter substance. For while a fiery demise could not reasonably have been foreseen, a watery one would seem eminently likely, the mouth being a soggy sort of cotillion. But I will always choose paper when I can. It is an ideal conductive medium for spirits. I must have sensed this when, as a child, I had the habit of chewing into a cud, corners torn from the pages of books. Only yesterday, on one of my rare visits to town, the Cheese Hill librarian splattered me with dung as she drove by in her motor car. For she has grown very grand now that she is married and her husband a wealthy man. On the whole, I am glad you are dead. Every author should be dead. When I first understood that most of them are, I was a little relieved, for the idea that they might be paring their corns or nibbling almonds while their ghosts murmured prematurely in my ear seemed not only disorienting, but a little unseemly. It is hard to yield oneself fully to communion with a person who somewhere may be singing in a saloon, "There was a fiddler and he wore a wig. Wiggy, 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 wheedle, wheedle, wheedle. He saved up his money and he bought a pig. Wig, piggy, 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 tweedle, tweedle, tweedle." I see, sir, from the jut of your beard, I have your book propped open to your portrait, that you would not have sung such a song even when in the indiscreet condition that is life. But there is no telling what a man may do in the fullness of time and under the influence of spirits, alcoholic spirits, I mean. So it is very good that you are out of the way of temptation. I have seldom known the dead to sing. That gives me quite a good idea, however. I must speak to our Mr. Lenore. But my little dress is becoming sodden and no spirits come. Do not be angry, Mr. Melville, but I wonder why you do not come. One of the ladies of the Harmonial Sisterhood chats regularly with Genghis Khan and marvels that he speaks such good English, but I would much rather speak to you. Sorrowfully, Miss Sybil joins. I'm going to hop ahead to one of the later parts of the final dispatch. Again, from the land of the dead. I am down at the swampy verge of our lawn, near the runoff ditch, up which, in flood weather, the river washed garbage up onto the lawn, to the indignation and disgust of my father. I can see an eggshell bobbing like a coracle. Squatting in the thistles and milkweed, I am forcing my fingers down my throat, tasting mud, sap, tears, bile, eventually also blood. Some sour sort of word is coming out of me. See how the void colors itself. See how it slops like water when with slimy fingers I pull off my shoes and wade in to catch the eggshell in my cupped hands. See how the void that is shaped like an eggshell bobs on the little pond I hold in my hands, then settles as the void that colors itself water drains through my fingers. See how my finger damps the rubbery little membrane inside the eggshell, pressing it down until it bursts. See how I thrust my finger straight through the bottom of the shell. See how the shell cracks, how I crush it. We call this remembering. It is not very pleasant. I start up the damp lawn where the rubbery knuckles of mushrooms nestled among the sparse grass under the chestnut trees cry out as I tread on them and thus remind me that I am not living, though I am walking, what I call walking. What is walking because I say so, which saying makes a path scroll underfoot. Although a short while ago, if when I speak of whiles, I began to notice that my walking had the feel of creeping, and then of crouching motionless inside a small dark place and listening, as if for something I feared and expected. Death is not dark ordinarily, has not hitherto been dark, for behind all specific things, and even through them, I have seemed to see the glare of the page. But now death does begin to seem a little dark to me, while still remaining basically white. It is as if all I can see is the ink and the chinks between these crudely pegged and wired together pinewood splits let in only a little light. In the shafts float dust and rabbit hairs. When I exhale, they somersault slowly. Then there is a smell. This is unusual in death. We forget about the smells, forget to describe them, and thus forget to smell them. As soon as I smell smoke, I know that I have been smelling it for several minutes already, and am all at once terrified. More terrified than the situation warrants, for I am in death already, and if I were to stay on and thus die, it would be merely to accede to a condition already my own, and to a disaster, if it is one, that happened a long time ago. Though, as I tell myself this, my understanding of the land of the dead deepens suddenly, for I see that it is not necessarily true, though I have believed it, and may again, that I am in control of where I go and what I do when I am dead, for someone else could write my story for me, as I have conceived writing it for others, and this someone might not wish me well. I try to reassure myself with the thought that I have no enemies, but see at once that this is scarcely so. Why, just last week I beat 2 children, fired a maid I suspected of burning instead of darning a threadbare sock, chased away a tinker, and adopted a supercilious tone with the town librarian, knowing full well that it would enrage her. 5 people who might wish me ill, and that's not even counting the dead, some of whom have even better reasons. Thinking this, I noticed a brightening of the darkness, an oranging and yellowing and flickering, and above all, a changing. Suddenly, the nothing is burning. I'm not complaining, merely remarking. I am as calm as a wick. I stand in the furor just like I did before and wait to know what to do, which I will very soon, I'm sure. You may take this moment to curl your hands into fists to warm your corpse-cold fingers. Do not worry unduly. It is a friendly fire in a way. It is familiar from family etymologically. The nothing is woody and sheddish. So it burns readily and I burn inside it, as I would have burned that other time had I not leapt like the hare through the fire, coming out on the other side of death, you might say, with smoking braids, no eyebrows, and crimped lashes. This time I shall stay put, being already on the other side. I shall think about walking calmly away, or about cold water rising, or about you, uncurling your fingers and tap, tap, tapping, making the only sound in the quiet room except for the tick of something, probably a death watch beetle in the walls. I would like to be telling a different story, Secretary. Yours, say. You are more real to me at this moment than fire, though I suppose you are a kind of fire yourself. Do we not burn all our lives long, mixing fuel with oxygen to light our cells and emitting waste like a kind of solid smoke at the other end? If so, you are a cool fire, friend, cooler than I am. I cool myself against you. I sleep alone, but you would discover if we shared a bed, a purely hypothetical scenario, that I am like a furnace, that anything pressing against me would grow intolerably hot and begin to smell of smoke until your eyes burned and you choked, your lips turning bluish gray. No, I am letting myself become confused. You would grow hot and wet, with sweat, no matter how cold the night, no matter how dry the roaring wind, in which sparks and flecks of ash and charcoal fly, dotting your dress with eyelets ringed with expanding circles of fire, stinging your cheeks and neck so that you clap your hands to your face, crying, no, 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 no. Compose yourself. Resume. Your story. You have a non-regulation black shawl draped around your shoulders with my express permission. My office is not well heated. I do not require it for reasons we have just considered. I could melt a tunnel through a blizzard. This building suits me not although, but because it is damp and cold and dark and still as a tomb. Nothing orange and leaping here. No heating stove may more than smolder, as all the housemates know. I stay out of the kitchen and choose not to know if other rules obtain there. You are wearing a black pinafore, flammable but not scorched, over a white blouse with long ink-spotted sleeves and a high neck to hide the burns. No, that is wrong. You have never been burned, dear listener. I assert it. Even if you once seized the handle of a cast-iron fry pan that was sliding off the range toward your little sister and scorched the entire palm of your right hand so that pale, plump continents of blister rose up on it, didn't they? You have never really burned. Not like... It speaks. Fire, I mean. It howls and sings and harangues and cajoles. You don't know what I'm talking about, of course. Of course. Ha ha! It is so restful to talk to you. I would give you a raise if I did not know that you would save it up toward your independence, and I prefer to keep you. But I shall get you a rug for your lap, and a tasseled cushion for your feet, or perhaps a hod of coal for your personal use as you tap, tap, tap and listen to me, tap and listen all night long. Coal to stoke the fire, beating orange against the glass until it shatters. No! Your feet are not visible under your skirts, but I can hear your narrow boots knocking against the runnels of my chair. That is certainly not the sound of nails exploding from the twisting wood, or of a plank falling outward, crashing onto its burning side to make a narrow blackened runway edged with flame. Would you dare to walk that runway through a seethe of flame? You have the look of a deer about you, or perhaps a hare, narrow and wary and strange. Still, but prepared to explode into motion, to leap over or through a fire if you needed to. You would leap. I applaud you. I too leapt. I do not need to leap this time, though now the roof has caught, of the shed, the sheddy nothingness that is all around me like a horrible womb. What a very absurd and tasteless phrase that is, dear listener. Let it stand. Every stylist must have her piccata. All around me but tiger-striped. In every fire, there are places where fire is not. Stripes of fire, stripes of the absence of fire. To escape a fire, one need only organize the blaze, so that all that is fire is in one place and all that is not fire in another, balled together, as it were. Then one may walk through an inferno unscathed and out of it. This, rather than hare-like leaping, is the approach of the rational demiurge, the approach I now prefer. I do not even look back to check whether the roof fell in, as it had to the moment I leapt. I mean, stepped through the break in the wall, placing my feet one after the other, walking the plank to safety. Now there is just a little heap of nothing burning behind me. Smoke is twirling up into a question mark. Now it is thinning. Now it is gone. You too did not panic. I am sure of it. You are cool, competent, and compliant. Of course you are, or you would not have the job you have. You stammer, I think I recall, on the letter A. And again. Afterlife. I like that about you. A is the beginning of the alphabet, and thus you announce, in a sense, another alphabet, an alphabet of difficulty and even silence. You grew up in New York, I think, or Patterson, a city bigger than any in which I ever felt at home. You went to work young, washing dishes, perhaps, to support your family. Your younger sister, so smart, so spirited. Your mother, a drunk of easy virtue. Your sister died of what? Of consumption, like me? No cholera, no influenza, one of the three, galloping through the tenements where you, like so many others, lived. Your mother, equally afflicted, coughing blood and gin vapors, told you to go to the devil, and in a sense you did. You came, after a sojourn at your aunt's, to me. I am glad you did. Are you black? Now I think that you are, that I knew that and forgot it, since your mind seems colorless when I speak into your unobstructed ear, a perfect blank on which I write, though I do not mean to imply that to be colorless is preferable or even possible. None of us is that. One is parchment-hued, another peach or pink, another piebald. Personally, I am yellowish. For beauty of hue, you have the advantage of me. Have you heard from your sister? She is dead, you said, or I said it, or you said it, saying it was me, writing it as if I had said it, persuading me I said it. I'm sure she is. I'm sure you would not have left her with your mother, if your mother lived, if what I have heard, what I have said of your mother is true. I am sure that when men, loud with drink and lewdness, made free with your mother's person, behind the glowing green sheet that screened the other bed in your single room, you covered your sister's ears or sang songs. We do not stutter when we sing, or bundled her up warm and hoisted her out onto the fire escape beside you to count the lighted windows and watch the moon up into the sky. I have made your mother's intercourse an ugly thing, and probably it was for you. A child does not want to be burdened with her parents' pleasure any more than with their pain or grief. But the green glowing sheet, I have been told that sexual intercourse can be like death. The sexual climax is even called a little death. During it, I hear a person becomes like an object, knowing and glad to know, if just for a few moments, only what things know as they move against other things, and move and lie still and move again. I think I would like to try sexual intercourse. I wonder what you would think but perhaps not with a person, with a tree or an iron stove. I suppose I might enjoy it with a tinker in his cart hung with pots and spatulas and buckets of nails, all rocking and clanking and jingling as if we two were made of nothing but scrap iron and bent spoons bound together with rags. Better if we were. One would not want to start a child. No. Idle thoughts. The impulse is not strong. Perhaps I satisfy it another way, for it seems to me that stammering is like sex. Since when we stammer or stutter, the substance of speech becomes present to us as a burr and buzz and scrape in the throat, while its meaning recedes. Time bounces like a tinker's cart. Consonants rattle and creak. Stammering, we rock in place, we thrust with our tongues, we pull strange faces, our cheeks flush, our mouth is misshapen, the throat is a ring tight on the swelling breath. We forget what we mean, we are only saying. So this is sex. And sex is stuttering, the world beating against a threshold, and both are forms of death, joyful death, because we love the world so much, we long to lose ourselves in it. The world teeters between meaning and matter. We are at the fulcrum. We are the fulcrum. And I am tipping the balance, but I don't know which way. I don't know. There. Thank you.